The podcast you are about to listen to is an account of the movies which befell a group of horror fans, in particular, Tara Garwood and her intrepid friend, Matt Lolich. Had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, although they would have wished, to see as much of the mad and macabre as we're to see in those movies. For them, an idyllic summer movie became a nightmare, and they loved it. The movies that they watched were to lead to the creation of one of the most terrifying podcasts in the annals of American history. The Scary Movie Project.
Hello, fellow fiends. This is the Scary Movie Project, the podcast where we talk about scary movies and bring you all the spoilers lurking in our bloody hearts. I'm Tara.
Hello, my children of the night. I am Matt. Tonight, we dive in, take a bite out of whatever pun you want to use for Love Never Dies, Bram Stoker. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. I will just quickly point out that this is one of my definitely top 10 favorite films of all time. I don't know if it's top 5.
This is a good film.
I truly love it to death. I really do.
I mean, it's Francis Ford Coppola.
Well, obviously, yeah.
It's Francis Ford freaking Coppola,
right.
Guys. Like,
look,
come on.
It's
a good film.
Let's look at how many Dracula movies there have been. A lot, yeah?
A lot.
And how many are like really that faithful to the novel? Not that many.
Well, not really this one. We'll talk about it.
But okay, no. But of name me 10 movies, this is the best one to it. This is the most faithful. I think.
Possibly.
Yes. I think. No, I truly believe it is. The characters are mostly the same. A lot of the.
Well, they use a lot of the novel in it, but
right.
I think. Well, I think when they go into the love story, it's so far off from the novel that for me, that kind of
Fair
makes
enough.
it like, yeah, the whole like point of the movie is not true to the novel, though.
All right, I mean, look.
Like, it uses a lot of the novel, though.
No movie's going to be perfect to a book. That's just the way it's going to be. But this is the most, in my opinion, the most faithful to the book that there is. I believe that. That's my feeling. But
except that they turned it into a Gothic romance.
Hey, and you know what? It's cool. I'm cool with it. What's every movie or every song about some sort of romance anyway, right? So,
yeah.
I saw this movie in the theater when I was a kid, when I was like 12 years old. And
oh my God.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of films that I've gotten like crazy hyped up. Like I have this habit of getting really hyped up for movies every like decade or so. And Batman with Michael Keaton when I was a kid was like one of them.
Oh God, I remember that.
Yeah, I still love it. When Rob Zombie was going to have his Halloween come out, I was so stoked. And this Dracula was on my list of movies that I found out.
What year did this actually come out?
92.
92. Okay,
so when I got wind of this, I was so pumped. I got so pumped for this film. And it never lets me down. I have truly enjoyed, and we have to get into, and we will, how this movie is made, because that is the bread and butter of this movie. Is how they made this movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. We'll talk about... We will
definitely
talk about that. So first, let's talk about the fact...
I would like to talk about, since this is where this takes place, I want to talk about Transylvania, because it's one of the coolest places I've ever been to.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So, yeah,
because you've gotten to go there. Some of us have been to Transylvania.
I mean...
Some of us
have only been...
in this very Zoom room been to Transylvania.
Pennsylvania, Transylvania, what's the difference? Spotsylvania, it's all the same. Anyway, we have a lot, as Brian Williams would say, we have a lot to unpack.
Yeah, so let's first start with the fact that this movie, as a horror movie, well, kind of a horror movie, not really a horror movie, sort of a horror movie. It's a horror movie.
Yeah, we've argued about that on other movies before, but yeah.
It won 3 Oscars, people. And
it did.
True to form for horror movies, if they're going to win Oscars, they're going to be technical, right? Mm-hmm. So it won Best Costume Design, Best Effects, Sound Effect Editing.
And I'm cool with those.
And Best Makeup.
Cool with all those.
They're all good.
Couldn't agree more with the great job they did on all those, so that's fine by me.
Yeah, all of them are amazing. They did such good work in this, and especially when you know that everything was practical effects.
I'm pretty biased on this film, so you can pretty much say anything about it. I'd be like, yeah, that's great. No problem. So, they hired Nazis to do blah. Oh, great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. Yeah, awesome. Love it. Yeah, great movie.
Right.
Okay, so we open on a voiceover telling the story of the Christian prince Vlad fighting the Turks in the Middle Ages. So
Constantinople had fallen. That's right.
They're showing the fighting, and they have like the silhouettes of the impaled people, and the one guy who's like actively getting impaled in the shot. It's so good. It's so well done. And then Vlad wins, of course, right? But the Turks have
He's the mighty Romanian prince. Yeah, that's right.
But the Turks have tricked his wife Isabella into thinking that he lost and had been killed.
I think it's Elisabeta.
Oh, you're right. Why did I write Isabella down? Right. Elisabeta.
Yeah. Vlad Tepes, for those that you don't know, is the real.
Yes.
Well, that's more of a conversation for another time.
So she commits suicide, and the priest tells Vlad that she was damned for it, and so he renounces God and vows to live forever. Now, the first thing we have to note here is that the priest is played by Sir Anthony Hopkins, who also plays Van Helsing.
And does all these voiceovers.
And later on does this voiceover for the captain of the Demeter.
So he does so much. I mean, he's great. Why wouldn't you have him do all this stuff?
And then the other thing we have to note is that, and this is, we're getting your music crossover in really early here, Matt.
Oh, but it won't be organic because you're bringing it up. But okay.
Prince Vlad's scream after he drives his sword into the cross is not Gary Oldman's voice.
Oh, just like yelling. I love that. Yes.
It is Lux Interior, the lead singer of the punk band The Cramps. He recorded that scream, and it was dubbed in.
Okay, good. I like it. Actually, and this is actually something that actually was in the movie, because when we talk about music, we're just kind of like randomly talking about music.
No, it was literally in the movie. Like,
That's
I
great.
saw that trivia, and I was like, oh my God!
Good.
Matt's going to love it!
Good, great. It actually is in the movie this time. That's fabulous.
So now we have gotten through the little, like, prelude, and we are in London.
And that armor, by the way, he's wearing that red armor is like...
Oh, that armor that looks like like the striated muscles?
Yes.
Yes.
It's so I think
good.
Coppola says he has it in his house somewhere now. I think he still has some.
That armor
I think he has it. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's supposed to look like a dragon, I believe, was the idea behind it. So it's so cool.
Oh, I just always thought it looked like a flayed human, like you could see their muscles.
Could be that too. That works well too.
So now we're in London in 1897 at the Carfax Lunatic Asylum.
Which is when Dracula was written by Bram Stoker, by the way.
Yes. Yes, it is. And Renfield, played by Tom Waits.
Oh, say Renfield.
He's talking to his master and eating flies.
Yep, sure is.
Like
spiders,
you do.
Flies. Well, when you're crazy, you do, yes.
So Tom Waits played this role, but you know who they originally wanted to play it?
I don't know.
Their first choice?
Mm-mm.
Now, try and imagine it.
Crazy
Steve
Renfield?
Buscemi.
Oh, that would have been like perfect. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Tom Waits is perfect.
How old is Steve Buscemi in 1992? He's, well, whatever. I mean, yeah,
I think he would be old enough to play Renfield.
That's true because Fargo is only, a couple years later. So, yeah, okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like probably 40s? Renfield is like 40s, I'd say.
I would think Buscemi would have been great. But, yeah, this guy's fine. He's good.
No, Tom Waits is amazing.
I mean, it's not a very big role anyway. So.
No, but it's a meaty, like...
Yeah.
You get to chew the walls kind of acting.
Literally when you're in the
yeah,
asylum.
like for real. So Jonathan Harker is sent to Transylvania.
All right. Can we get this out of the way quickly then?
Oh, let's get it out of the way.
All right. Great movie, great film. Like I said, I'll agree with anything. We have to admit, we have to let you guys know that Keanu Reeves plays Jonathan Harker, and he's a disaster. He's an utter disaster.
Well, let's be real.
There's just no way around it.
I know you love her.
There's no way around it. Who?
I know you love her.
Who's that?
But Mina is not so hot either.
I'm not a huge
Miss Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder. I've never
claimed
I'm a huge fan of her.
They are the two like American like heartthrob actors who got dropped in with all these
Actual actors, right?
Really good actors.
Okay.
I mean,
That's
not
fair.
that there's anything wrong with either of them for what they do,
Yep.
but they got dropped in with the likes of freaking Sir freaking
Oh, and they know that.
Sir
we know.
Anthony Hopkins.
Hannibal Lecter himself.
Like, like they got dropped in with these people who are
All right.
amazing.
So
and
look, Keanu Reeves is
they're fine.
I mean, look, his accent. I say is the causal flaw. I mean, look, he's a nightmare in this film, whatever. But the other part of it is great. Winona Ryder, I've never claimed any.
She doesn't have a very good accent.
I've never really claimed any real fan aficionado for her. I mean, I don't think I've ever said that, but she's better than.
I don't know why I thought you liked her.
I mean, she's fine. She's in one of the Alien movies. I think she's an okay actress, but she's definitely better than he is. At least she's better than that.
I think she's better than he is.
But she is
neither
kind
one
of
of them has a good British accent.
but
Let's
I find
get that
her
on the table.
Fine, yeah, I'll admit that. But I will say I do like she's got the vulnerability kind of thing to the Count, which I like, and I think that's fine. Anyway.
Yeah, I think she
Keanu
plays
Reeves
far better. I think she plays far better with the Count, with Dracula, than she does with Keanu, with Jonathan Harker.
Didn't they accidentally get married on set, by the way?
Apparently,
Like, really get married?
They think they did. They're not sure because it wasn't done in English, but they think they might have. And apparently, she sometimes will text him or whatever, call him up, be like, "Hey, husband."
Oh my god! All right, so trivia. Where did she get her name from? What is she named after? She's from Winona, Minnesota.
Oh, I did not know that.
So next time, anyone out there, whatever city you're living in, your children are born, just name them after the city they're from.
Name them after the city you had them in.
There you go. So anyway, enough
Easy
about
peasy.
enough
done.
about Winona
I would have been
Ryder.
Washington, so.
Yeah, well, me too. We'd have a lot of Washingtons.
Or Gaithersburg, depending on if you go by where you were born and where you were conceived.
Right. Now I'm trying to think of what else she's in that I like. Anyway, continue.
Okay, so Jonathan Harker is getting sent to Transylvania to deal with Count Dracula's financial transactions because Renfield, who had been there dealing with his financial transactions, he's like buying a bunch of houses around London, went crazy. So Harker's fiancée, Mina, she's sad that he's leaving. And they'll have to wait to get married until he returns.
Wilhelmina Murray, yes.
Wilhelmina, yes.
Okay.
Mina. So Harker is like writing in his journal as he rides the train to Transylvania and to the Carpathians.
Okay, that scene is so good. Oh,
so we're gonna talk about this. So one of the tricks they do in this is where Dracula's eyes mysteriously appear in the sky, right outside the train window. So here's how they did that. Because as we mentioned,
there's a couple of cool things.
All but one special effect were done in camera. There was one.
Let's make a quick
that
note.
We'll get to in a second.
And let's make a note right off the bat about that. The reason we're doing this all is because Francis Ford Coppola wanted to basically. This novel was written in 1897.
Yep.
He wanted to then take this movie and create it in the fashion, produce it in the way a film would have been produced at the turn of the century when film was brand new. He didn't want to use effects. He didn't want to use CGI. He wanted to make these in-camera, naive, practical effects. Exactly. So and
it makes it gives it sort of this feel of like those Hammer films.
Yes, it's
like
amazing.
It feels like this older film. And he does like longer cuts like they would. Much of the acting is much more presentational like it would have been in older times. Even in the like 40s and 50s, acting was much more presentational than it is now. It's
so
far
much
more
dramatic,
naturalistic now. Yeah, it was more staged.
Yep.
And
and
then they had longer shots, right? They would do wider shots where you saw more of what was going on, and they would hold on them for a longer period of time. Whereas now we're like cut.
Natural Born Killers, 3,000 something cuts, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So he wanted to do it in this more traditional, old-fashioned manner,
and that's I think
which makes
70%. I think it's 70% of the reason I love this movie. To be honest with you,
yes,
I really do.
Yes.
Even when I was a kid, when I was a really young teenager, I was fascinated by how they did this, and that's what really got me into it.
Stylistically, it's fantastic, and apparently his first
beautiful.
effects crew told him that they couldn't do it all practical.
Oh, so he hired
and so
his
he
son.
fired them and hired his son. Yeah,
Right. Well, his entire his whole entire bloodline is like
They're all
massively
filmmakers
talented. Right. So
They're-
yeah, is it nepotism? Sure, of course, but I mean the fact, but his son delivered.
but his son made it happen,
Right.
and it happened.
It's not like he hired him and he sat around, drinking and sleeping the whole time. Like he did this. He made this happen.
This was a case.
Yeah.
This is a case of nepotism gone right.
Yes, which doesn't happen
instead
very
of gone
often.
wrong.
Which is
So-
rare.
So the outside the window, right? You see Dracula's eyes show up in the sky outside the window of the train,
In all red and
and
everything.
this is how they did it.
Yes.
First, they did the shot of Gary Oldman's eyes, and they had him wearing special makeup so that only his eyes would be visible when the image was projected onto the sky backdrop. So then they projected the skies
This rear projection,
the-
right?
um
They're using rear projection for
well,
this,
I think
correct?
they did both so they had a backdrop of the Carpathian Mountain set.
Yep.
So that was a backdrop.
I think it was a couple
Then they
backdrops.
projected the eyes onto the backdrop.
Yep. Okay,
And
front projection.
then they did a shot of Keanu sitting in the train.
Yep.
With
They have
the
set.
combined background eye shot rear projected through the window.
Mhm, exactly. That's a couple
So,
layers to it.
Yeah, it's layer on layer on layer.
So
to
he's
get
actually
it right.
he's in that train, the set, and then they're doing all those physical, actual
yeah.
things
And
through
there's
that window.
He's looking at the map, and then there's the little train on the map.
Uh-huh.
That was done with a really huge book and a little tiny miniature
Yes.
train, and
Yeah.
they did forced perspective.
Yes. Now, there's that one scene where the train is going through the mountains, and it does look very fake, but so what? Because it doesn't matter.
But it's part of the style of
and
the
it's
movie.
it's supposed to be. Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah, it's totally part of the style. So, anyways,
That
so
scene,
that's
though,
cool.
And the music with the strings coming
Oh,
in.
the music in this movie is fantastic.
That scene
It's
is just
so good.
And you hear his voice, and he's speaking. The Count is talking to him, and he's.
Well,
Oh, you hear
does
the
the
voiceover?
Count talk yet?
Yeah, well, that's the scene
Oh,
when
yeah,
they're on the train.
yeah.
And he's telling him,
you're right.
I can't wait for you to come visit.
Right,
blah,
because
blah.
we're not seeing him speak, but we're hearing
your
him.
your friend D, right?
Your
And he's-
friend
Yeah,
D.
it's so
So-
great.
So he's riding to Transylvania. Back home, Mina is typing in her diary, and she misses Jonathan. And when Jonathan gets in this group carriage, and he arrives at the place where Dracula's carriage is going to pick him up,
Okay.
and this gypsy
Let's
gives
go-
him a cross, and she says,
For the dead travel
For the-
fast. And let's
"You are
talk about
absolutely right."
let's talk about that scene too, where he's waiting for the coach. How great is that?
Well, so he's waiting for the coach, and a bunch of wolves show up,
Which is always great.
which is always great.
Yeah. I want
And then the
that.
carriage arrives.
Oh my god.
And the driver is not a normal human. And that was all trick photography too. The arm comes out. So so first of all, it's not a normal human. It's
Well,
Gary freaking Oldman.
Well, tell audience what actually happens in that scene.
So the driver, played by Gary Oldman, who also plays Dracula, but you don't recognize him in this,
No.
leans down really far down, and unnaturally long arm reaches out and grabs behind
Grabs him on the shoulder and picks him up.
grabs Harker's shoulder and picks him up and puts him into the carriage, helps him into the carriage
It's
that
a
way.
completely unnatural scene.
And so they I can't remember exactly how they did it because I didn't
what
write
they
this
did
down, but they
I think they took a camera.
he's on a crane.
I think they took a
I know
camera
that.
crane, and I think all they did was they just a lot of block. You got to be really specific with the blocking on it.
Yep.
It lets him extend normally, and then they're able as they start the pan. He's on a crane, and they just push him out. So he just starts reaching
Right.
more.
So
you never
so
see past
he
his
moves
shoulder.
and you only see his arm reaching
Right.
out
So you
as
never
the
see-
camera moves
you
and
don't see
cuts the rest
past-
of him off. Yeah. That's
You
right.
don't see past his shoulder, so you see him extend. You're watching going, it's a subtle thing, too, and you're going, well, how is this guy reaching out 15, 20 feet? What's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
no,
way he
it's
picks him
really
up-
well done.
I remember thinking to myself when I was getting closer on a train to Transylvania, thinking, I really, really want this carriage to come pick me up. This is That's what I want to come get me.
I don't.
This would be amazing. And the blue flames and everything. I'm thinking, if this is
so
real,
the blue flames. So when they're driving up the mountains, they go to this like lonely castle on one peak of the mountains.
That was
but
so
they
scary.
pass this weird column of blue fire on the way, and that I call it fairy fire.
Okay.
It's the only optical effect in the whole movie.
Sure. Yeah.
It's the
'cause that would be
only
hard.
one that's not that was not achieved in camera.
That would be tough to do.
Yeah. So
Yeah, great
there you
scenes.
go.
I love
Everything else
that.
is done in camera, which guys means no post-production work. Like they didn't even take 2 layers of film and edit it like that. They
Nothing.
just
all done
if they
in,
had
literally in the camera.
something, if they had something that was layered over something else, it was because they were doing like a projection, or they were filming it and then rewinding the film and refilming over it.
It's
like,
complicated
that's how
too.
they did all that
It's hard
stuff.
to do
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. So then he goes into the castle's courtyard and he meets Dracula, who is preceded by this like creepy shadow that's like reaching out.
Shadows. The
The shadows in this are
that
so
keep
good.
coming up behind. Those are so great. I love those shadows.
They keep like changing. Yeah. And then and Dracula is very old, guys. Make note of that if you haven't seen this movie.
Yes.
Dracula is extremely old.
He's ancient.
He's ancient.
Like when you make fun of like your parents and you call them ancient, like this guy really is ancient.
No, this guy is truly like butt buns on his head.
To see his
big old wrinkles, gray white face,
and
ancient.
hairy palms.
Hairy
And
palms, that's right. Which
it-
we don't see right away, I don't think. We see that a little later.
Is the train on his outfit longer than like most brides, like on their wedding day? Because that thing is
Probably.
ridiculous.
Nowadays, probably, yeah.
My goodness. Anyway, it's pretty ornate.
So they sit down at the dining room table. And there's a portrait of the Count Dracula from the beginning of the movie. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Right, hey.
His ancestor.
And then Keanu Reeves, stellar acting. I say, an ancestor. I see a resemblance. Right.
I see a resemblance. And so he says, go. Dracula tells Harker, go ahead and eat. I don't. And then he says, well, he pours him some wine and he says, and I never drink wine.
There are some good, funny moments in this movie.
It's such brilliant delivery that I feel like
I've already dined. Right.
I feel like only Gary Oldman could get that delivery like
and
that.
Gary Oldman's like what, 30 in this movie at the time, probably too. He's young. He's a
no,
young
he
man.
might be like 35, 40. He
Okay.
might be that old.
All right.
But he could be 30. I think he might be a little older than that, though.
In his 30s, probably at the time.
Yeah. So Gary Oldman, by the way, worked with a singing coach to help him lower his voice by like an octave so that Dracula would seem more sinister.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah. Harker points out the painting, the portrait, and he tells Harker about the Order of the Dracul who fought for the Catholic Church.
The Order of the Dragon.
He says, it was not a successful partnership. And Harker laughs about it, and the Count draws a sword on him and lectures him about the gravity of this. Which I just love. It's just so dramatic and like surprising right from the start when you meet Dracula. You just are like, oh my God, he's this crazy. Like, even if you didn't know he was a vampire, you would be like, this man is crazy. This man is nuts.
Dracul means what? A devil. And then Dracula is supposed to be
Dracul means
devil.
dragon.
Devil, dragon,
dragon.
whatever. So that means son of the dragon or son of the devil.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So later on, Dracula is speaking to Harker as Harker's drafting the papers for his purchase of Carfax Abbey and some other houses. He's buying like 9 other houses too all around London, which they don't explain in the movie, but in the book it's explained that he's buying them, and then he's also later on we'll see these boxes of earth that he's shipping from Transylvania to London. So he's going to put a box of earth in each of these houses that he has scattered around London as like hidey holes for when the sun comes up or when he like needs to get away from people, when he's weak, because he has to travel with his with the earth from his home.
That's right.
So they don't explain that in the movie, though. But there you go. Now you know when
Now
you
you
watch
know.
the movie. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
If you know about vampires, you would know that, but that's fine.
Well,
We're
it depends on
educating our
how.
audiences.
It depends on what kind of vampires you know about. I mean, if you know about like Twilight vampires, you wouldn't know that.
That's a whole nother. Yes, yeah, you're right.
If
right.
you know about
Fair
like Vampire Hunter D vampires, you might not know that.
Okay,
It just
I'm
depends.
I'm probably being too generic then.
Well, you're being too true to the original text.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess.
So Harker is drafting the papers for the purchase of Carfax Abbey, and Dracula's talking to him, and Dracula's shadow is moving like separately from him. And then it's like on one side of Harker, and Harker turns to him, and then he's like on the other side of the table, and Harker's like, wait, what?
So I'll throw this in there now because for Simpsons fans out there, please tell me if you've seen one of the best Treehouse of Terror episodes ever was Bart Simpson's Dracula. It is freaking hilarious. And when they do the shadow stuff, well, Mr. Burns is the vampire.
Of course.
When they're doing the shadow stuff, one of them is Mr. Burns playing with a yo-yo. That episode cracks me. It is one of the best ones they ever did. And they're driving up there. Homer's driving. It was awfully nice of Mr. Burns to invite us to his house in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Anyway, please watch that episode if you haven't seen it. You will die laughing. Yep, it's a perfect spoof of his movie. It's great. Yep.
Okay, so they're dealing with the houses. They're finalizing the purchases. Dracula sees Harker's picture of his fiancée Mina and becomes entranced.
And he has that sweep of his hand, the shadow over the desk, and he grabs the picture.
Yeah, and he grabs the
love that.
picture.
So
And
great.
he tells Harker that his wife died. It feels so long ago.
Ages ago, it
feels
seems, he
ages
says.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
ages ago, it seems. And he then tells Harker to write his firm and say that he wants to stay there for another month.
If someone told me that, I'd be like, I'm leaving now, but goodbye.
Yeah, just like tell them you're going to stay another month.
How about I'm leaving right now?
How about see ya?
Bye.
This is creepy.
Nice.
This place is creepy and you're creepy. Bye.
Nice. Well, actually, if I was staying with the vampire in Romania, I probably wouldn't leave. So, but anyway, everyone else
Well,
probably.
yeah, you would.
Everyone else probably would leave.
And then, but I would probably be like, immediately be like, please turn me. I want to live forever.
No.
This is awesome. So one of the things I love his cape makes the transition into the next scene.
Yes, that is nice, isn't it?
So good.
Yeah.
And that next scene is Mina, who's staying with her rich friend Lucy.
Lucy Westerner. Yeah.
Lucy Westenra, and they are looking at Arabian Nights
Yeah.
and the drawings of the sexual
love it.
positions in it, and Lucy thinks it's like awesome,
Right.
and Mina is a little bit scandalized,
Yes. Can people really do that? Right. Yeah.
a little bit scandalized, and yeah, she's like, do they? Ooh. And at a party that night, Lucy is flirting with Quincy P. Morris, a Texan
With the big Bowie knife. I love when
cowboy.
they all come in and she flirts with them for like a minute, then gets up and goes to the next one, and it's just this really funny like.
Yes, so it's Quincy first,
cracks
and
me
then
up.
Dr. Jack Seward,
And then
Lord Arthur Homewood.
Arthur Homewood, Esquire.
Lord Arthur Homewood.
And then one of them trips on the rug with the bear head on it. I love
Oh
that.
yeah. And then, but so
Arthur
she
Homewood,
literally, it's like she's
Esquire.
flirting with one, the next one shows up, she flirts with him, the next one shows up, she flirts with
Oh
him.
my god, it's so great.
And the three of them are all like buddies though.
Yes.
And apparently Francis Ford Coppola had them all go on a series of like adventures. They went like horseback riding and hot air ballooning and stuff like that to like build their camaraderie.
That's great.
I
love that. Yep, it's hilarious. And of course,
So-
and remember that mansion that the party is where she lives. That's a miniature, the big miniature they built.
Oh yeah, when we're
And,
outside of it. Yeah.
The exterior establishing shot. It's not a real mansion anywhere. It's a miniature they built by the size of, your suitcase, and they just force perspective again. They shoot it from a certain angle, and it looks like a mansion. Yep.
Yeah, it looks
Pretty cool.
huge.
Yep.
And then in the next scene, Dr. Seward is, so he was at the party. That's where he really met him. And then he's
Jack.
studying Renfield.
Dr. Jack.
Dr. Jack.
Yes.
He's studying Renfield, and Renfield tells him that eating bugs gives him life. Says, "This life that I eat brings life back to me."
He's like, well, a fly. What about a spider? Because the
And then
spider eats
a
the
spider eats the fly. And then he says, "What about a kitten?"
Oh.
And he said, "Oh, please, a kitten.
My salvation depends on it.
My salvation."
Right.
And then I need lives. I need lives for the master.
Yeah, he's totally off.
The master will come, and he has promised to make me immortal.
And Jack is like, this dude is just gone.
And then he attacks Dr. Jack.
Sure does. And I love the orderlies have like the big baskets on their heads. They're like made of like wire. Like those are the most.
Oh my God! I didn't even notice them.
Those are the most interesting. Like they're actually wearing like helmets to like protect themselves.
I was so focused on Renfield, I didn't even notice that.
And they hose everyone down. It's like the
they hose everyone down.
Yep, it's so interesting.
And then back in Transylvania, Harker is feeling very uneasy, and Dracula shows up while he's shaving, and the door closes by itself. And the mirror breaks, but just before it breaks, we can see that Dracula is not reflected in it.
And was that a real mirror?
Here's how they did that trick.
That's not a real mirror, is it?
No, that is a hole in the frame.
Yes,
in the mirror frame.
That's right.
And so Keanu Reeves was behind the hole, being the reflection. His body double was in front of the hole, being the real person, because you only see the back of his head.
Right.
And they're mirroring each other. And then when Dracula comes in, when Gary Oldman comes in and he puts his hand on his shoulder, he's not in the mirror because there's nobody acting as his reflection.
Right. Yep. Love it.
And then my favorite part in this, it's maybe one of my favorite parts of the movie. The mirror breaks, and then he like takes Harker's razor from him, and behind Harker's back, he licks the razor.
And the way he licks it is, I mean, it's like a junkie with like taking a drink out of a bottle, right? Like he needs it. He's got to have it.
So
yeah, he's just like he has a hard on for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he finishes shaving him like very gently and carefully.
Because you never really see him feed in this movie. You know what I'm saying?
No, never.
Yeah.
That's, I think, well, no, you do. You do.
He does with Lucy and with
Lucy,
Mina. Yes,
and you see him bite Mina.
You never really see him go to town. But yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing that happened during that shaving scene that they did was they moved the walls of the set gradually closer in to make that like claustrophobic feeling.
That's awesome.
So Dracula warns Harker not to fall asleep in any other parts of the castle.
Right.
And then he sees Harker's cross and he freaks out. And he says, he freaks out and says, "Our ways are not your ways, and they may seem strange to you."
Right.
And I love the way Keanu says this line. "I've seen many strange things already."
Bloody, what does he say? What does he say that he's seen? What does he mention?
Bloody. I don't remember.
Yeah.
What does he say? I just remember
I
I've seen
can't
many strange
remember.
things already.
Right. Him and his accent is just terrible. Bloody wolves doing something or something. I forget what he says. Yeah.
Bloody wolves.
Yeah. His.
Then so the wolves show up outside, and Dracula says, and this is I think straight from the book, "Children of the night, what sweet music they make."
And that's the famous Bela Lugosi line from one of the original. Right.
Which
that is
when I do my Dracula impression, it's much more Bela Lugosi than it is.
Yeah, Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
And that's what I meant too about like that's faithful to the book. The journal entries are right out of the book.
A lot of the
like
lines and the journal entries are straight from the book. Yeah.
So that's why I was saying.
I just feel like they took a very large liberty in making it a love story.
Sure, that's okay. Hey, they did a good job, so I'm not complaining.
They did do a good job.
Okay by me.
And the only reason I am so like adamant about this is because I was actually in a rock opera of Dracula.
There you go. See?
I played Mina, and I read the whole book, and it was really very much straight from the book. Like almost all the dialogue was right from the book. Not all of it, but a lot of it was straight from the book. So I'm like very familiar with the story. So I'm like,
Sure.
this isn't right. This
Right.
isn't actually accurate to the book.
Right.
So outside, we see Dracula crawling down the wall, which is just a nice little like
I love it.
interstitial moment.
Like, what is going on? Yeah.
Like, and now Dracula's crawling down the wall.
Now he's doing this.
Okay.
So that happened, as they say.
Yeah, there we go. So Harker has given the letters that he wrote to Dracula, and he tells his diary, Harker tells his diary, that he made no mention of his concerns because he knew Dracula would read them. And he says in his voiceover in his head, I know now that I'm a prisoner.
And once again, we see the Oscar-worthy acting of Keanu Reeves.
And he explores the castle, Harker does. And he finds a bottle of liquid that drips up instead of down.
Ooh, I like that.
I love that.
I want a
guessing
bottle
that
of
was
liquid.
backwards. I'm guessing that was filmed
Yeah,
backwards.
that was
a
easy.
lot of things in this movie were filmed backwards.
So if anyone knows where I
a
can
lot of vampire stuff was
and
filmed
we'll get
backwards.
to a very cool part of that. If anyone knows where I can get a bottle of liquid that drips up, please, that would let me know. I'd love to have a bottle that drips up.
Email us at thescarymovieproject@gmail.com and
Add
let
that-
Matt know where he can get that.
Add that to my list of any places you know that have those giant orgy parties, like in Eyes Wide Shut and The Ninth Gate. So that's on my list of things.
Yeah.
That, if you have this information, please pass it on.
So then after the bottle of liquid that drips up instead of down, he hears Mina's voice saying, Jonathan, come to me.
Right. Or we
And
think.
Yeah, or so we think. He goes toward the sound, and there's mist all over the floor, and we see these footprints in it.
Yep.
I did not find how they did that.
They probably use dust or the baby powder or something like that, right? I
Right,
guess.
but they're actual footprints.
Yeah, I don't know. There's maybe that was a digital
They're
one.
appearing as they go.
They may have had to have done that in post. I don't know.
Maybe.
Because that would be hard.
I hope not. I hope they did it somehow in camera. I don't know how, but I hope they did.
Sure.
So the he lays down, and a slutula, as I'll call them, Dracula's bride.
Dracula's brides.
I will call them slutulas.
I like that. That's fine. Whores of Dracula.
Slutulas.
Yep.
One rises up between Harker's legs, and then two more on either side of him. And slutula one like hisses at his cross,
Right,
and
it
it
like
melts.
Yes. That's awesome.
Which, if vampires can do that, that makes them a lot scarier.
I was gonna say that pretty much nullifies the whole garlic and cross thing, doesn't it? Pretty
Right?
much.
Like,
I can just
oh,
hiss at you and
Forget
it's gone.
crosses.
Right.
They can melt them.
I can just get rid of it. But maybe that's because they're in his lair and they're kind of almost invincible where they are.
Maybe.
That's my only thought to that. But
Maybe. Still, that's scary to me.
it's very.
So they make out with Harker, and then they
Well,
grow fangs and they bite him.
They sure do. They drain him.
Oh, and that rising from the bed, they consulted with a professional magician to achieve that
Ooh,
effect.
That's awesome. See, there you go.
Yeah.
Lots of being a magician pays off.
Yep, they worked with a magician on that one.
Yeah, so they basically just drain him when they're in
Yeah,
there.
so they're
right?
like sucking his blood, and then Dracula shows up and yells at them, and they all back away. And two of them are look like they're one creature.
And I will say, I think what I've read, I only speak a very few amount of words to get myself around there, but I think they really did speak Romanian in those scenes. I think, and like at the beginning of the movie
they
too.
may have.
I think they really are. So I think that's
I
accurate.
believe it.
I think
I
that's
believe
accurate.
it.
So yeah.
So there's three of them, but it's like two of them are like one's upside down, one's right side
Oh,
up, and
yeah,
they're
they're
like
all-
on each other, and it's like seems like they're one creature, but then there's three
Right.
of them separate again later. So
Right.
I don't know. But he gives them a baby to eat. Dracula does, not Harker. Dracula gives them a baby to
Well, they're
eat.
like, yeah, are we to have nothing to eat tonight? And he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
here's a baby, which we don't know where it came from, and we're not going
Right.
to bother asking about it because
Right.
just here it is.
like Oliver. Please, sir, might we have some more?
Right. Just here's a baby I brought. Eat it.
Here's a baby I brought, and they go to town, and Harker screams.
And he just kirks out and just basically goes unconscious at that
yeah,
point.
he's just like, bah!
I think I'd probably have
unconscious.
I'd have a meltdown right at that point too. So
Yeah. So then Meaner.
meaner, sup meaner,
Mina gets her letter from Jonathan saying that he's going to stay there for a month.
and it's like a sentence long, right?
Yeah, it's just like
Hey, how you doing? I'm here
a
for
sentence
a month.
or two. And she's
Bye.
like, oh, okay. And then Dracula's gypsies fill boxes with earth, and Jonathan is wondering why. So this is when the Earth comes in.
More great voiceover again. Why do they toil day and night, filling the boxes full of earth?
You're doing too good of an accent, though.
I am actually. I probably am. Yeah, they should have hired me.
So back in England, Lucy is all excited because she accepted an offer of marriage from Lord Holmwood.
Yeah, right.
Lord Arthur Holmwood.
Right.
And Mina is worried about the letter she got from Jonathan.
Is Carrie Elways, right?
Carrie Elwes is Lord Holmwood. Yes.
So good in Saw. Ooh.
Oh, and so cute.
Love him in Saw.
He's so cute.
He's great. Great actor.
And Lucy and Mina, Lucy's excited. Mina's worried about the letter she got from Jonathan. They run through the rain in the garden's maze at night. I don't exactly know why, but they're actually, I guess it's not night yet. They're running through the maze in the rain.
I think it's just because they want to watch women run around in the rain. I don't really have another reason for that except that.
Because it looks awesome.
It does.
That's why they did it.
Yep, the movie's very sexually driven, and I think that was just kind of like, hey, let's watch two women run around. Don't they kiss each other at this point as well?
Yes, they do. They kiss each other in the garden's maze in the rain.
Then this conversation is over because you already have the answer now to why they shot this scene.
There you go. They shot this scene for the two of them to kiss.
Two women kiss.
Because really, a lot of this movie is about the sexual repression of women in Victorian England.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, look at Mina. She's so prim and proper, and
her
friend is like a tramp, and it's like, okay.
And what happens to her friend, who is a tramp, who is a little bit of a tramp?
Well, it kind of goes by the rules of like a horror film kind of deal too, right?
It's not so good.
See, just like
it's not so good.
Being promiscuous gets you killed in the end. That's right.
Yeah. So they have their little moment in the garden maze. Then we get diary entries from the ship that's carrying the boxes of earth, which is where
the Demeter.
Yeah, this is where it's oh my God, what's his name? Sir
Anthony Hopkins.
Hopkins.
You can just call him Anthony Hopkins. That's okay.
Whew.
Tony.
This is where Tony, my buddy Tony. This is where Anthony Hopkins does the voiceover of the captain of the Demeter.
So I noticed, I was thinking, I think we mentioned when it comes to buying boats, we've now eliminated two names. I think we decided never name your boat the Nostromo. And
yes.
Let's add the Demeter to our list.
Not the Demeter.
And probably the Orca, because that was for the one from Jaws. So there's three names
which
to never name.
Which we will get to not too far from now.
So three names we're trying to help you of what to not name your boat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go, guys. You heard it here first.
Yes.
And so in the voiceover, the captain says, "We believe something or someone."
Oh, I can do it for you if you want. It's like 25th May of 18 whatever. Crew believes someone or something is on board. Yes, I love that.
Yes, it's on board the ship with us.
And then you see like Dracula's just chilling in like the boxes of earth doing his Dracula thing, and it's like, oh,
and he's like attacking the
blood flying onto the sail. I love that shot.
Yeah, he's attacking the ship's like workers, the sailors, as they're the mates, the sailors, the mates, all of them, as they're traveling.
Right.
And as they get closer in the asylum, Renfield gets more and more agitated, and Dr. Seward injects himself with something. I think like morphine, maybe.
Yeah, he's just taking a ton of morphine.
Yeah, I think he's just
he's a junkie.
addicted to morphine.
Yep.
So, and then Lucy. Oh yeah, this is that night. Lucy has left her cross necklace.
And she's
gone outside in her red negligee with the billowing cape.
Yes, beautiful, that color, because everything else is so...
huge billowing cape that goes way out behind her.
Because it's kind of like, it's a garden, it's colorful, but it's nighttime, but like all that red she has lights up like the whole scene. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
so
she
pretty.
just like stands out in it.
Yes. And she's got the red hair, that like flaming like red hair she's got. Yeah.
Yep, which they dyed because apparently she looked a little too much like Winona Ryder.
Oh, interesting.
So they dyed her hair red. So Mina runs after her through the storm, and Mina sees a hairy man-beast having sex with Lucy.
He's working it too.
And that hairy man-beast we know is Dracula.
And he says, don't see me, he says to her.
Yes, he says, don't see me. And he bites Lucy's neck.
Yeah.
And that's when Mina, he bites the neck. Mina sees it. He says, no. Do not see me.
And that's that cool superimpose of like Gary Oldman's face with the Dracula face on the wolf face
with the
kind of
monster
thing.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And then he is gone, and Mina goes to Lucy and tells her she's walking in her sleep again. And Lucy's like babbling. She's like, something lured me. I had no control.
Right.
Oh, it was biting me. I had no control.
Okay.
It lured me there. I couldn't help it. Oh. And
Something like
that
that.
happens. And that's
happens.
that
So
scene.
That happens.
So then that happens. So then the earth boxes are unloaded at Carfax Abbey, which is right by the asylum, by the way. So Carfax Abbey, Carfax Asylum, right by each other.
Got it.
And then we get
One-stop
voiceover again saying, contrary to popular belief, a vampire can walk about at day, but his powers are weak.
Right.
And this is when we get our much younger Gary Oldman.
Is that amazing scene where he rises up out of the coffin too? Right?
I
Doesn't he
think
have that
so. We see him
dramatic-
rise up out of the coffin, but
It's like
then
that
we see him
surreal-
walking.
That surreal shot of him just rising up out. I love that scene. It's so cool looking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that, and then it's the street.
Or is it the one where he busts out
And
of the
he's-
crate? I forget. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
He's-
It just looks cool on camera. That's all.
I'm trying to remember which one happens where.
He either rises up in that ornate gown, or it's the one where he breaks out of the crate like with no shirt on, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just cool to look at.
I think the crate might be towards the end of the movie.
It's fine.
Anyways.
This is not important to the storyline. No.
Anyways, our much younger Gary Oldman in a dove gray suit and blue sunglasses.
Halloween costume I've wanted to wear my entire life.
Yes.
I still would kill to get my hands on that costume.
That would be amazing. That would be super amazing.
He's got the cane with him too. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he has the cane.
Oh,
he has
that
the blue
outfit.
sunglasses.
Dude.
He's got the dove gray top hat.
So dope.
The very stylized, beautiful suit.
Yeah.
And he sees Mina on the street, and this time he whispers, "See me. See me
right.
now." And she looks at him as she walks by. And then he bumps into her and he apologizes and then tries to talk to her. And Mina's really snarky. He's like acting like he's trying to ask her where something is.
Totally rude to him, yeah.
And then she walks away, but now he's in front of her and she says, "Are you acquainted with my husband?"
Yes, very good.
And he says,
Husband. Yeah.
"I shall trouble you no more."
And then he so can I want to point out one, finish your part of it.
Okay, well, at which point she apologizes for being rude.
Yes.
And he introduces himself as a prince. And then she shows him the way to the landmark he was looking for.
And it's kind of so lame because you know what he's going to do. She's like, "Oh, prince?" And she totally falls for it. Yeah. Right.
Oh,
Ooh.
prince.
Right. So can we talk about a more production stuff again?
No, of course.
Don't forget how they did that one of the parts of that scene. So when they cut to that scene of London, it's that old-fashioned dissolve where it opens up, the pinhole dissolve. And we see that shot of the camera kind of craning down, and you see the streets of London, and you see him, and it looks like an old-timey camera. Well, it looks like one because Coppola bought an old, I think it's called like a Pan-A or a Pathé camera. He bought a camera from like 1900, a working camera, and he put Kodak, the film in it, and they shot that scene, those 20 seconds, with that camera.
I did not know
the
that.
camera
That's
operator
amazing.
is in there with the hood over him and everything. And
Yes.
literally, he's cranking the deal. He's cranking the camera.
Yeah.
24 frames a second. And they
Yes.
shot it in that. And that is the 20 second. And that's why you see it looking all weird and jittery. That is that is not an effect. That is with an old turn-of-the-century film camera.
Well, there you go, guys. You just saw
Amazing.
film from
Yes.
a camera that is like,
Yes.
at that point, probably like 80 or 90 years old
Yes.
when it was shot.
They really shot this
That's
scene.
pretty awesome.
They didn't overdo it because it was probably hard to work with. But a good 15, 20 seconds are with that camera.
Yeah, that was like some good stuff.
Yep. Amazing.
So meanwhile, while Mina is showing the Prince
Vlad
Dracula, to the landmark he was looking for, which is
the cinematograph.
a cinema house. Yes.
Come see the world famous cinematograph. Yeah.
So while they're going there, Dr. Seward arrives at the West End house
we just
and
call him
Lucy.
Jack?
Jack.
Because they always everyone in the movie calls him Jack. I don't like
Jack
calling him Dr.
arrives
Seward.
at the Westenra house.
Sorry.
And Lucy's in her wedding dress getting fitted. And it's a monstrosity, people.
I don't find it attractive, really.
It's like got this huge, like, wide Elizabethan collar.
It's awful. But it's like totally
a
that time.
Freaking doggy cone of shame.
Basically.
And it's shapeless. It's a mess. But it looks great later on.
Well, yeah, that's awesome.
But
I find
in
it,
this,
I find
I'm
it more
like,
attractive.
Jesus, she's
Yeah.
going to get married in that? That's terrible.
I find it more attractive much later, yes.
So she tells Jack that she's changing. She can hear everything, but she's having horrible nightmares.
Mice in the attic stomping like elephants.
Stomping like elephants.
Yeah.
And then she says, "Oh, Jack, kiss me." And he kisses her really quickly, and then he like pulls away, and Lord Arthur and Quincy show up.
Right.
And she's breathing all strangely. So Jack wants to bring in Professor Van Helsing to see what's wrong with her.
Because he's stumped. Yeah, he doesn't know where to go.
Yeah, because he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is weird. And she just kissed me, and I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Blah, because he's in love with her.
Duh, she's a vampire.
I mean, duh, yeah. And,
Come
oh,
on.
by the way, as we're about to get to Van Helsing, Liam Neeson really wanted the part.
I definitely have seen that.
But after Anthony Hopkins, who was, just out of Silence of the Lambs, showed interest, they turned Neeson down and took him instead.
I think he would have been great,
Which
though.
I think Neeson would have been great, but
Yeah,
I also
yeah.
think if you can get Anthony Hopkins,
Of
you
course.
take Anthony
Oh,
Hopkins.
yes.
Like,
Yes,
you
you
do
do.
not fuck with that. You take
It doesn't
the
matter
man
what
when
role
he
it's
wants
for.
to be in your movie.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what role it is. You take
Yeah,
that dude.
he's amazing. And he's so great as Van Helsing.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
He's like half the humor in the whole movie.
Yes.
Like, he's
His
so
lines,
weird
his delivery.
and funny. Oh,
yeah,
he's so
he's
good.
perfect. He's perfect. Yeah.
So Mina has gotten Dracula to the cinematograph.
Cinematograph.
And they're watching a picture show, and he's marveling at the science. And suddenly he pulls her into a quiet place, and he almost bites her, but he's arrested because she's the spitting image of his wife from way back then, and he can't do it. He just can't do it.
Now, is that the scene where he says the line that I love, where he's crossed oceans of time to find her?
No,
is that
I
later
think
on?
that's later on when they're having
dinner. Okay, sorry, I ruined it. No, I didn't ruin it.
That's okay.
I love that line he says.
Yeah, I think that's when they're having dinner, though.
Okay.
So a wolf comes into the building, and everyone runs away.
Remember, we'd seen the wolf escape from the zoo previously.
Oh, right. We'd seen it escape from the zoo, and so now it comes into the building. Everyone runs away, and Dracula kneels, and it walks just calmly over to him, and he lets Mina pet it. And he says,
So one of the words he says,
he likes you.
I have to
There is
bring
much
this
to
up.
be learned from beasts.
Right.
And they have a moment.
One of the things they do. And of course, he's able to tame it, obviously.
Oh, yes.
But one of the, I swear, I mean, if you know any like supernatural Romanian words or anything, that Dracula stuff, you know the word's strigoi, and it means the undead, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I swear he says that to the wolf at one point, which, why would you say that? But I swear he says that. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I'm imagining it. I just thought
I
that
don't
was
know. I
interesting.
didn't notice that, but maybe he does.
Because whatever. I just happened to hear it, and I thought that's interesting. So, but yeah, obviously he can charm the wolf, of course, because he's Dracula. So
Right. He's Dracula, so he can charm the wolf.
yes,
And he takes Mina back to Lucy's home, and he kisses her hand before she goes inside, and she stares after him as he leaves. She just stares.
a longing gaze.
Yes, and then she goes inside. And
My sweet prince.
now we're introduced to Professor Van Helsing
Yeah.
as he's lecturing in a class about bats and blood diseases and syphilis. And
And then
it's
he gets
an awesome
bit-
little scene.
Yeah, and I love the old-fashioned doctor thing, and they all have the knocking on the deal.
Yes,
and
they all knock on the tables
and they
like
applaud. Right.
to applaud. Yeah. So he receives a letter. Someone brings in a letter for him, and he ends the class and leaves like right away. And meanwhile, Harker is being held by the slutulas, and they're keeping him drained of blood so he's weak.
That's right.
And he says to his diary, I guess, that he will try one more time to escape. And back in London, Lucy's lying in bed and Dracula shows up and she like writhes as he hovers over her. And when Professor Van Helsing arrives at the Westenra house, he immediately sees that she has a bite in her neck. Like everybody else just missed this huge double puncture wound in her neck.
He knows what he's looking for.
And right, but like you're telling me nobody saw it.
Hold on, don't forget she's wearing that wedding dress and she has it covered, right?
Yeah, but that's not like the first day they saw her, is it? Maybe it is.
I'm just whatever. Go ahead, it's fine.
Maybe it is the first time they've seen her.
Maybe.
Anyways, they draw blood from Lord Arthur to transfer to Lucy because Professor Van Helsing says that she's dying from lack of blood. And the suitors, I called the three men together the suitors.
No, that works.
The suitors can't figure out how Lucy lost so much blood.
Yeah.
So one of them says, something just came up there and it sucked out of her and flew away, I suppose. Yeah. And Van Helsing says, yeah, why not?
Why not? And that's when they're out in the yard and he's talking about astral bodies and projection. And
he explains to them. Well, first he explains to them that it's feeding on Lucy's blood, that something's feeding on her blood. He says, it is a beast, a monster. And then, they go outside and he's talking about how there's all these things that that people don't understand.
Yep, and he disappears. And then Jack tells
and then he's behind the
bloody
statue.
Novice. Yeah, and he just kind of appears. Yep, I love that.
And then, meanwhile, Dracula and Mina are eating dinner together. And
drinking absinthe, right?
Is pouring absinthe over a sugar cube. And then she sucks on the sugar cube.
It's so
and then
sensual. And we love it.
It's very much sexy time.
Oh, yeah, it is sexy time.
And they're in his private dining room, but there's like shadows dancing behind the shades.
Very well done. Lighting's beautiful. Great.
Yeah.
And that's. And that's when he tells her the story.
She describes Transylvania, his home, as though she's been there, and says that his voice seems familiar.
What I will point out, which I love, they mention this is because, and anyone that knows Transylvania knows of course, the Latin for it. What does Transylvania mean? She says it in the movie, but it's accurate.
The land beyond.
The land beyond the forest.
The forest, yeah.
So,
the land
she
beyond
says
the forest.
that I visualize a land beyond forest and trees, and I'm thinking like that is so cool. Yeah. They're actually being so accurate about this. Yes, I love it.
And she's also, by the way, at this point wearing a red dress, which she has been wearing green dresses up until now.
Green, I think she has been wearing green, right?
Yeah, and green is like. I think green symbolizes like fidelity and stuff, but red is of course like a very carnal color.
Sexy time.
So now that she's like going out with Dracula, she's wearing red.
That's my dude.
And she says, "And what of the princess?" And he says, "Princess." And she says, "There's always a princess."
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she talks about, how she sees a river and she says she's filled with tears and sadness. And he tells her what happened. Yep. And this is, I think, when he says, "I've crossed oceans of time to find you."
I'm not a romantic like with the lines and those kind of things from movies, but I just love that line and I love his delivery for it. I think it's just great.
Well, you are in good company because that line is apparently, supposedly, the reason he took the role.
Oh, is that right? No kidding.
Yeah. He wanted to know what it would feel like to say that to someone.
Okay. That is so cool. I think that's very cool.
And then, of course, he catches like her tears.
And they turn to crystals. I love that.
They turn to diamonds in his hand.
Yes, that is so. Wish I could do that.
Right?
It seems like a line you'd hear in Titanic, right? That he would say to like, what's her face? Kate Winslet.
Oh, no, it's far too good for Titanic.
Some of us like Titanic, all right?
Titanic wasn't that bad.
Well, you know what? You have to be
But this movie's better.
You have to be a history buff of the actual event of the Titanic like myself to maybe really like it. But that's a whole other stuff.
Maybe.
Another conversation. Anyway, great
whole
line.
Other conversation.
Yep, great line. The music is really great that they play in this scene. It's so well done.
It's a really good scene, guys.
Yeah,
like we're describing everything, but we're not capturing the beauty and the stylishness of every moment of this movie.
It really is impossible. You're right.
If you haven't seen it, you have to. It's just
I was telling somebody the other day
outstanding.
Be reviewing this movie, and I tell them how much I love it, and they asked me what is so great about it, and I was just thinking, I don't even know that I can actually explain to you. Like, yeah, it's just
everything.
It's just I just love it. I love it.
Now back in Transylvania, Harker is climbing the wall outside the castle, and he falls into the river.
So more cool stuff. That's just the scene where the camera's put on its side, I think, right? And so it looks like he's falling down a wall.
Oh, and he's not?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes, yeah. He's actually upright, I think, but the camera's flipped, so it looks like he's sliding down the wall.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And as Dracula and Mina dance, he crawls out of the river and he sees an abbey.
Also, I'll point out, sorry.
Yes.
Before, because this happens while he's still in the castle. There's a scene you see where he's walking around, dicking around, looking around the castle, and you see a rat running upside down.
Oh, yeah.
So do you want to tell everybody how they did that one?
Yeah. So, I totally can't believe I missed that one. So they turned the camera upside down and filmed the rats running across the floor. Then they turned the camera back right side up and rewound.
But the thing about that also is, to get that right, they can only expose areas of the film.
Yeah, and they had to mask off.
They have to literally completely black out everything but that rat. Yeah, right.
Yep.
Exactly.
So then they had to mask off that part,
right,
and re-record just the part with him walking. We're there on the ceiling.
That's a hard enough scene to put together.
And you have to line it up right? Like you have to rewind the film just the right amount.
I was going to say, so just think about it this way for all you editors out there too. Think how actually time-consuming that would be inside Premiere or Final Cut by itself. And then think about having to do that in a camera where you may not even be able to see your image. You probably have to go by the feet and the amount of actual film you've made.
Yeah.
So just think about that. That is very complicated.
Rough.
Yes.
That's rough.
Yep. That's hard enough inside to do inside a nonlinear editor by itself. So yeah, amazing. So cool.
Yeah. So back to the story. Harker crawls out of the river. He sees an abbey. And it's the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. They take care of him, and they send a letter to Mina to come immediately to the abbey to be married to Jonathan. Because they're worried about him. He has a brain fever.
A brain fever, yes.
A brain fever.
I'm not familiar with this term, but that's fine.
And back in London, in England, Mina reads the letter, and she's like really excited. She goes to see Lucy, who's still in bed, and Lucy tells her to
Getting
go
progressively
to him.
Worse, yes. Go to Jonathan.
Go to him. She's like, but I won't leave you. Mina's like, but I won't leave you. Read, I won't leave my count. And my prince, whatever. And then Lucy's like, go to him. And she gives her a huge ring as a wedding gift.
Yes, a rock.
A rock.
A rock.
Lucy starts freaking out and tearing the garlic off her neck.
Yeah.
And she tries to bite Quincy when he gets too close, but they stop her. And then back to Dracula, his butler brings him a letter from Mina that says that she's going to Transylvania to marry Harker, and he cries blood tears on the letter.
She'll never see him again, right?
Yeah, and she'll never see him again. He cries blood tears on the letter.
So we've actually seen that if Dracula has like feelings and emotions, right? He's not just this like monster that lives inside of a coffin.
In this movie.
Okay. I mean that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes. No, I'm joking. But he cries blood tears on the letter because he's found because Mina looks exactly like Elisabeta, and so he's found his wife again. And
after
so
500 years,
and now she's saying she's leaving and going and getting married. So back with Lucy, Lord Arthur is sitting at her bedside with a firearm, protecting her while Quincy's outside
while drinking.
And he's drinking.
I might add, because we know a combination of alcohol and firearms is just a great combination.
Luckily, the combination of alcohol and firearms isn't too bad because he falls asleep on duty.
He does, but I mean, yes. Anyway. Oh, and I love. Okay, actually, I have two cool. Keep going, because I have two technical production questions about this scene.
Okay. So Quincy's outside patrolling. Lucy wakes up Justice Quincy shoots a beast as it runs up the stairs.
Yeah.
Dracula is the beast, of course.
Yes.
He turns into a wolf and he bites Lucy's neck, and she has a bloodgasm.
Oh, dude, when that room explodes in blood, was like the happiest moment of my life when I saw
It's
that
a
the first
bloodgasm,
time.
guys.
Yes.
It's a bloodgasm.
It reminded me of like Nightmare on Elm Street when she explodes. Oh my God, that was amazing! Just comes out of everywhere. What does he tell her? He gives her the speech like, "I condemn you to eternal death" or whatever, and something. And then he just rips her open basically.
He just,
Oh my God.
bloodgasm. That's
what?
the only word for it.
I think I've been looking for a word for that my whole life, and thank you for finally answering that.
You're
for me.
welcome.
So,
You're welcome. Happy to serve.
Yes. So my question for this scene was, I'm wondering what camera and what shutter speed and stuff they used, because when you see the wolf's point of view, when he's running up the stairs,
Yeah.
it's so like that shutter speed is so crazy, right? Isn't it like you see it from the wolf's POV and it looks crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really wondering what they used and how they frame rate and shutter they use for that. And then I love the kind of time lapse. Remember earlier when the flowers are in there? And
Oh,
when he
yeah, and they
passes
go
by,
and they
the
die.
flowers just die instantly. Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah.
So a couple
That's
neat
got to
tricks.
have been a pretty high rate time lapse. Like,
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. I thought I really loved in there that I enjoyed that. But yeah, never found out about how they shot. Yeah, the POV of the wolf.
yeah, I don't know how they
curious,
did that.
because that looks very cool. I mean, it's like in Gladiator. It's like artifacting in Gladiator when Ridley Scott did that. The opening scene of the battle, super crazy. Like frame rate. So it has the
super high frame rate.
Yeah, so
and
it
they
has
had to, which means they had to bring down the stops, the f stops, and then they
Right.
had to like flood the scene with light to like
Yes.
get anything.
Of course, it looks very cool. So I'm wondering if that was something similar. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't know.
love that scene. Yeah, and love the bloodgasm. Great.
Yes, thank you.
Bloodgasm. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming up with it.
You're welcome.
I always just refer to it as the room explodes in blood.
You're welcome.
That was the best I could do.
Now, Mina has gotten to Transylvania, and she and Jonathan get married there, and his hair is all gray now.
Can I ask one? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yes.
And isn't that next scene, like right when the bloodgasm, doesn't it then dissolve into her dead body in the coffin, like right after that?
Well,
too?
it goes from the bloodgasm, it goes to them getting married in Transylvania.
Oh,
and then from them getting married in
that's-
Transylvania,
Thank
it goes
you.
to Lucy being buried in her wedding dress in the glass casket.
Thank you for bringing this up. Thank you, because I wanted to mention this. I forgot about this totally. So Coppola, if you feel like you're watching Godfather again, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what I mean by that, if y'all are listening, you've got the juxtaposition. Remember at the end of Godfather, when Michael goes to the baptism for his son, right? And while this wonderful religious rite of purity is happening, his enemies are being killed off. And
Right.
this time we get to see Mina and Jonathan being married while Dracula's going to do the evil deed of killing this poor woman.
Right.
So that is just like Coppola doing his thing again, and that's what I took out of it. And I was watching it thinking, this is exactly like the end of Godfather. This is so cool.
And then we go with another sort of opposite where we cut straight from the wedding to Lucy buried in her wedding dress in a glass casket because she's to like the funeral.
Yes. And who
So
gets buried in a glass
and that
casket?
glass casket though,
Yeah, who
but
gets-
it's so dope.
Can I get buried in that, please? Yeah.
Oh
wow.
my god, it's so good looking and like
Yeah, if you
that
want to go,
whole
that's
scene because
the way to
it's
go.
a wide shot.
Yeah.
And they're all sort of doing their thing in the scene, and the
So I'm curious. So
casket is just there. It's amazing.
I don't consider myself an art aficionado. I like artists. I like paintings. I don't love it, but I like to see good artwork. And I know that any good film is made by looking at a lot of paintings beforehand and getting a lot of inspiration and ideas. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys like Edvard Munch, who did the Scream, of course.
Yep.
There is a painting he did of, I don't know if it's called Death, or maybe it's called Funeral. And it's a painting of a family at a funeral, I believe. And I get that feeling when I see that shot you're talking about of her dead and the family mourning all around her.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're borrowing from that Edvard Munch painting.
Oh,
maybe. I like it. It's beautiful. I think he's a great artist.
They clearly borrowed from a lot of art and
Exactly. And that's what I mean. Any good film looks at pieces of art and goes with them and uses them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, beautiful shots.
So Van Helsing has a plan to fix Lucy.
And it's that
we'll get there.
That sad scene of the death, and then it just turns into comedy again with him.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Right.
We're almost there. Meanwhile, back in England, with Jonathan, Mina is still thinking about Dracula.
I wasn't even going to go that far. I was talking about when he brings Jack over when she's dead, and he asks, "Can I borrow your tools?" Well, you didn't. No, I just need to cut off her head. And
I just need to cut off her head.
And he just walks. And he just walks away from him.
Yeah. So Mina is still thinking about Dracula, and then Jonathan sees him on the street, and he says, "It is the man himself. Look, he's grown young."
I have no comment on that. I can't.
Anyway, she's still thinking about him, and now the suitors and Van Helsing go to the crypt where Lucy is buried. And they open her coffin, but she is not in it.
This is my favorite
You ready?
scene
You ready?
in the film. Yeah.
Lucy enters the crypt with a crying toddler in her arms. Right? And I think it's Lord Arthur says, "Lucy," and she drops the toddler on the ground. That kid, by the way, was so scared of her and all her makeup and everything that
Wouldn't you be?
It didn't know, the little girl didn't know that she had to do the scene more than once. And so after the first time, they had to really cajole her to get her to do it again, to get her to get in Lucy's arms again, because she was so scared of her.
Kids in scary movies is hard to work with sometimes. They can be difficult.
So Lucy drops the toddler and she says, "Come to me, Arthur."
Yeah.
And he almost does it.
He totally sinks into her, yes.
But Van Helsing thrusts a cross into her face, and she climbs back into her coffin, which is backwards filmed.
We'll talk about
filmed
this.
in reverse.
I want to talk about this scene a little bit, yeah.
And Lord Arthur stakes her heart, and then they cut her head off, and it's done.
All right. So.
All right.
I'm just going to rewind you a little bit, because this is my favorite scene, so I just want to go deeper into it. So yeah, they are going to go and do the vampire deed. You know, they get the tools, they go into the crypt. It's dark, it's swampy, it's just perfect. And like you said, they go in there, the crypt. She's just been killed. They open the crypt up. She's gone. And Arthur's points a gun and where is she? What's going on? What have you done with her?
Right.
What does Van Helsing say? The line, I can't remember it now. God, I've seen it so many times and I can't remember it. She's the undead. She walks amongst the living or something now. She is Nosferatu, vampire. She's not, not one of us.
Here.
Right. And so then they hear her coming, like you said. And she starts coming down the stairs, and she has the baby with her. And then you see the candles come on, right? And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So what they did there was they had the candles on, and they had her walk backwards up the stairs. So they blow out the candles with an air blower from off stage, off camera, while she walks up. And, of course, then they play it back. So she's coming down the stairs, and the candles come on. It's very simple, but it's very well done. And then, she comes down, drops the baby, tries to sucker him into it. He forces her back in. And, of course, she lays down, and she vomits blood all over him, kind of like Exorcist, right? Which is a great scene.
Yes.
Now, if you think she looks weird crawling into the coffin, because that's backwards, too.
Right, that's
she
backwards,
crawled into the coffin backward, and they reshot all this stuff backwards.
A lot of the stuff that's with it happened earlier, but with the slutulas is backwards too. So a lot of the vampire movement that you see you'll notice it looks a little off, and that's because they recorded it backwards.
It makes it look unnatural, and it has a very cool. I've tried it. I've done it before in a couple things I've done, and actually it looks very cool.
Yeah.
So they bring her back in, and then they lay her down. And then Van Helsing tells her that I love the line, "A moment's courage, and it is done." He says to her.
Courage, and it is done.
And he takes it, and he screams and just hammers it into her. And they slice her head off.
Yep.
And I love her outfit. To me, after I saw this, she was became the quintessential woman vampire to me for some reason. I love her in that white dress and her icy white face and her fangs and her and the blood red
blood
contrasts so much with it.
Which is what we were saying earlier. The wedding dress is horrible for a wedding, but it is pants. I mean, it is hands down just the best for a vampire.
I fell in love with that scene and her role, and even though it's not a big role, but and then so this is like the personal part. My dog's name is Sadie, and part of the reason of her name is the actress's name. Her name is Sadie Frost.
Yeah.
And I just loved that scene, and that name came to me. It gave me part of the name. Yeah, that's like my connections with that. But that scene, just like the best. I love it.
Oh
so,
yeah,
it's
a very cool scene.
It's so good. It's so good.
And then this next scene I kind of love too, because
yes,
Lucy and Jonathan are eating dinner with Van Helsing, and Mina and Jonathan are eating dinner with Van Helsing, and Mina says, "How did Lucy die? Was she in great pain?" And he says, "Yeah, she was in great pain. And then we drove a stake through her heart and cut off her head, and now she is at peace."
And in a restaurant,
and just
like
the
the
way
kids
he
are
says
looking
it,
around.
he's like, "She was in great pain. And then
Yeah.
we drove a stake through her heart
yeah.
and cut off her head, and now she's at peace. There you
and
go."
there's kids in the restaurant looking around. He's just making a scene. It's hilarious. Oh my god, yes,
Yeah.
I love it.
So
there
Jonathan
are some
wants to
lighter
go
moments.
yeah, there definitely are, and Van Helsing provides some of them. He's great. So Jonathan wants to go get Dracula, and the men like all get torches and they're ready to go after Dracula, and Mina's with them, and she says, "I almost feel pity for anything so hunted as this count," because she doesn't yet know that it's her prince.
She doesn't exactly
at this point. And Mina goes into the asylum with Jack and wants to see Renfield. And Renfield says, "I know you. You're the bride my master covets." My master covets. And he tells her to get away from here. And then she goes away from him because he's being crazy. And he says, "Master, master, you promised me eternal life, but you give it to the pretty woman."
All right.
And Mina's going to stay in Jack's apartment at the asylum while the men hunt the beast.
Right.
So at Carfax Abbey, they destroy all the boxes of earth as the bat Dracula flies away. And then Dracula shows up as green mist in Renfield's cell.
Pretty cool, right?
I don't know how they did that. I did not see how they did that.
I don't know how they do that either. That may have been an effect they had to do later.
Or maybe it was mist and a green light or something?
Maybe they really got Dracula to come in green mist.
Maybe so. You never know.
Movie secrets.
And he says to Renfield, "You have betrayed me." And he
No,
rams him into the bars repeatedly.
He kills him pretty fast. Only did it like 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Wiped
it's
him out
just
pretty
a
fast.
few rams and he's gone.
That's it. He's done.
And then he goes into the window where Mina is sleeping, still as a green mist. And she says she wants to be with him always. And he says, "You cannot know what you are saying."
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Yes, I do." And he says, "I feared I would never know your touch again. I thought you were dead." And she says, "I feared I would never know your touch again. I thought you were dead." And he says, "There is no life in this body."
Puts his hand up on his heart, yeah.
And yeah, he puts her hand on his heart.
And then she realizes that he killed Lucy.
Right, he gets all first he gets all angsty about being a vampire, and then she beats his chest and cries, "You murdered Lucy. I love you. Oh God, forgive me, but I do." And she wants him to make her a vampire. So he bites her neck, and then he slices his chest for her to drink from him, and she goes to drink, but he says, "No, I cannot let this be," because he loves her too much to let her be cursed for all eternity.
That's right.
But she is a modern woman, and she is going to do what she wants to do, so she does it anyways.
You tell her, "You go, girl, and do what you got to do."
So she does it anyways.
That's right.
And now the men return, and Dracula becomes a big, huge bat again. And he gives his villain speech.
Right. I served the cross, before, commanded armies, and you don't know anything, right?
Yeah, basically, you don't know anything, and you can't beat me.
Right.
And they all shoot him, and he becomes a ton of rats in the shape of a person that then fall down and run away. I don't know how they did that either. How did they get the rats in the shape of a person?
I don't want to know because I freaking hate rats. I don't care about that scene.
Rats.
No, I don't care about that scene.
So Mina now, because he has drank her blood and she's drank his blood, she now has a telepathic connection with Dracula.
That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
So, I mean...
Maybe not.
I don't know. Yeah, it depends.
Maybe not.
I'm not sure I would even want to have a telepathic connection with my husband, to be honest.
Might be more than you want.
Might be a little uncomfortable. So Van Helsing hypnotizes Mina so she can tell them where Dracula is. And he's heading back home by ship. So the suitors and Van Helsing, they take the train to Varna.
Ooh, Varna, I want to go to Varna, by the way. It's awesome.
Everybody takes the train to Varna to meet the ship that Dracula is on and burn it with him aboard. But the Count's ship has sailed past Varna.
Burn it into the sea.
Burn it into the sea. So the Count ship has sailed past Varna. So now they're trying to cut him off before he reaches the castle by coach.
At the Borgo Pass, which is real. I have not been to the Borgo Pass, though.
Oh, boo. Where have you been? I mean, come on. Transylvania.
Soon. Next time.
So Mina travels with Van Helsing while Harker and Lucy Suitors try to catch Dracula. And so, like, Mina is basically the bait, like, to hopefully keep Dracula from getting home.
She's a decoy. Yes,
yeah, she's a decoy. So he's outsmarted them again. So they keep hounding him. They keep following him. And then Mina and Van Helsing are stopped like they're taking a rest stop.
At a crossroads.
By the side of the road, yeah. And Mina starts writhing and the slutulas show up and Mina becomes amorous. And Van Helsing kisses her, but he jerks away when she goes to bite him.
And gets her with the wafer.
And he burns her with the communion wafer.
I love that.
They did that to me in my movie, in my play of it too. But you know how we did it? I'm sure this is not how they did in the movie, but we had red lipstick on the back of the wafer.
So
he pressed it to my head.
Yeah.
And then it stuck on my head for a second. And when they take it off, I had the mark. Yeah.
So here's the question. If I were to take a wafer right now and stick it on, would it burn and hiss like it did to her?
On my forehead?
Yeah, because then I'd find out if you were a vampire or not.
I'm not going to answer that question.
Ooh, I take that as a yes then. I'm glad I'm not physically in the same space with you right now.
I'm not going to answer that question.
So FYI, next time you guys see Tara, carry a mirror around with you, and if you don't see her reflection in it, you know you're in trouble.
Yes, if you don't see my reflection.
And make sure, and if she asks you to be invited in a room, then you know what you're dealing with.
Yep.
Anyway.
Stop telling all my secrets.
Sorry. Couldn't resist.
So he burns her with the communion wafer, and then he chases off the slutulas, and he chops their heads off. He finds their sleeping place, and he cuts all their heads off and throws the heads off the cliff.
Throws them into I love that scene. The sword he has, that is like the greatest sword ever.
That is a pretty bomb-ass sword.
Jeez.
So Dracula's carriage passes by where Mina and Van Helsing are camped, and the men are like hot in his tail. And they kill a lot of gypsies while they're chasing them. But Mina, like, gets up on a, like, tall rock and, like, calls down a storm with her new vampire powers.
I didn't know vampires could do that. That's pretty awesome.
I mean, he does say at some point, he says something about powers of the storm or powers over the storm.
But she's not she's not like him. I'm surprised she has that power.
Yeah. But
she's like a JV version vampire.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
She hasn't even, like, killed anybody yet.
Right. It's like you have your vampire card isn't all that yet, really.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So the clouds go over the sun just as they arrive at the castle.
So
and Quincy,
real quick fact, I want to say, real fast.
Yeah.
Cool production note, probably the last production note we'll mention here is that scene of them chasing them, the chase in the snow, which is gorgeous, by the way. It's just a giant backlot somewhere. It's a soundstage somewhere on the MGM lot.
Oh, huge. The whole thing was shot in L.A.
Right. So they just built. Imagine a horse track, a racetrack. It's like the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
That's all they did. They just built a giant set, and they just kept going in circles, and they would shoot it from different angles, so it didn't look like it was in one giant circle. Obviously.
Very nice.
Very cool. Really, I mean, simple enough in theory. I mean, it was hard to do, obviously, to make it all work, but yeah, that's how they did that. Very cool.
Very nice. So they get to the castle as the clouds are going over the sun. So it's like that makes Dracula stronger. And Quincy gets stabbed in the fighting, but he manages to stab Dracula in the heart.
Yes. Oh, yeah, he gets him good. Or Jonathan, or one of them did. That's right. Jonathan slits his throat.
Well, yeah, Jonathan slits his throat a bit, and then Quincy gets him in the heart.
Or did he get him? Or did he stab him in the? Yeah, it's in the heart. You're
No,
right.
it's in the front. It's in the heart. And then he's like staggering back, and Dracula and Mina like make it into the castle as Quincy dies with his buddies.
And isn't that like, aren't you like genuinely sad when he dies?
Well,
I am.
Well, he's not dead yet.
No,
when Quincy dies.
When Quincy dies.
I mean, yes,
Yeah,
I love Quincy.
Right. I mean, I think literally, genuinely,
he's just a cowboy.
The audience, I mean, every time I watch it, like, is genuinely sad when he dies. Yes.
Yeah, Quincy's a very sweet character.
We like him. We don't want him to die. Right.
Yeah, we like Quincy.
Yeah.
So Mina kisses Dracula, who is now grody old monster Dracula again.
Yes. Grody old.
And then she realizes how she can save them both as he turns young and handsome again. That's right. Under the cross, because they're in like the chapel.
Which is, by the way, a different ending than the book, I believe, as well, right? So.
Oh yeah. And he says,
but I think I like this better than the book ending.
And she slides the dagger all the way home.
Finishes
and he
him off
dies. And she kisses him one last time.
And then chops it.
And then pulls the dagger out of his chest and whoop, his head's off. And then the end credits roll with the dorkiest song.
By what's her face?
By Annie Lennox, which Annie Lennox is fantastic, and this song is so bad.
It kind of reminds me of that song, the "You Can't Rain All the Time" at the end of The Crow, also, where it's like, do I really need this?
Yeah, this song.
So here's
is
what
not
I'll say:
great.
the ending, I like the ending better than the book ending. And the book ending was kind of
Well, I think the book. I mean, this ending
I'm not gonna
works
ruin that.
because
we
of
ruined
the
the movie
romance.
enough.
The
I won't
book
ruin
ending
the book.
is. I think the
I won't
book
ruin
ending
it.
makes sense for the book.
Sure. Yeah, I like this.
Because you're not
better.
going to have this ending if they don't fall in love.
Right. Yeah, I like it better.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
personally.
I like them both.
Right.
They're just different.
They're good. Yeah. And I don't dislike either one. I prefer this though. I prefer this. So, yeah. So that's a wrap, and then that joint is over. That's it.
Yeah.
Dude.
So here's a little tidbit about this movie.
It's great.
It was originally going to be a made-for-TV movie.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Who? How did that happen?
Winona Ryder saw the script and she took it to Coppola. And apparently she hadn't spoken to him since she withdrew from The Godfather Part 3.
Huh.
But she so it was like 6 months after that. Okay. And they were meeting to discuss an adaptation of On the Road by Jack Kerouac.
Oh,
and
sure.
on her way out, she mentioned this script.
By the way.
And he said he'd make the movie. And so
it's awesome.
They made the movie. And that's why I'm
glad they did.
I think the cast was pretty much like her dream team because like she was attached to it before Coppola was even attached to it, I think.
Sure. That's wonderful.
Or at the same time as Coppola.
That's so cool. Cool.
And
Yeah.
I
so
know
cool.
this, one of the things that this was definitely influenced by was the movie Nosferatu from 1922.
What a great film.
It was definitely influenced by that.
Sure.
I think to some extent it was a bit influenced by The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
I love that movie too.
Because so apparently Coppola wanted to do much more impressionistic sets, like not as like lush sets.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the production company, the producers were like, no, you're doing real sets.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, they did everything was on sound stages, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, but the sets were still very like
they're great.
Impressionistic feeling a little bit. They felt a little more than real, a little too big to be real.
No, it's well done. I mean,
yeah.
all the way around. There's really not a lot. I mean, like I said, besides Keanu Reeves, there's not a lot you can dislike about this movie.
Yeah. And it was released to coincide with the 95th anniversary of the release of the novel.
Beautiful.
And with the 80th anniversary of the death of Bram Stoker.
Okay, so good timing on everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much we have to talk about what we think of this movie because we went through it all, but this is a great movie.
I think one more just quick technical point is I think a lot of that opening sequence was some very cool little stuff too, like the silhouette battle of the knights and stuff in the army. Those are all just like little figures with the
guys
backlit,
dying on the pikes.
Rear projection, the little puppets they're playing with. And I think Elisabeta, the wife, when she dies, I think she's a puppet. I think that's a puppet on a fake little set that is none of that's real. I think her falling into the water, I think that is a puppet, and it's a forced perspective thing too. It's little puppetry.
Yeah, I believe that.
It's not a real set. Yeah, amazing stuff. That's what like I said, that's what makes this movie so great to me, is these cool tricks like that I just is fascinating.
Okay, so let's bring back something that we haven't done in a little while.
Okay.
Because I think it would be fun with this movie.
Okay.
What character would you be?
Oh, I want to be Dracula. Duh.
Okay, but what character would you be?
Would I
Do you think you're Dracula?
No, probably not. I have... so of those 4 dudes, then, I have no idea. They're so old, fat. That's such like a
Maybe
long
you're
time.
Van Helsing because you know everything about
I would
vampires.
I would love to be him. I would love to be him. That'd be awesome.
I don't have too many choices, but I would say Mina because I'm more Mina than Lucy, I think.
Well, and you got to be her.
And I got to play
anyway.
her in a rock musical.
Right. There you go.
A rock opera.
That is a fun little game that we do. So that I do.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
haven't done that in a little while. I miss it.
But I would like to be. I don't want to be a vampire in real life, but I would like to be Dracula. But yeah, I mean, look, this film, like I said, holds a place for me because I've been watching it forever. It just means a lot to me, and so I'm not going to ramble on this, but this is the appropriate forum for me to go into it. So I finally went to Transylvania about almost 3 years ago. I have waited to go there my whole life, obviously. It was a trip where I happened to be in another part of Europe at the time, and I had the time, so I figured it was like, look, I'm all the way over here. I'm taking advantage of where I am. So I went to Romania for about 2.5 days. And Bucharest is amazing. And Dracula is alive and well in Romania, people. Believe me. Go. First of all, the country's beautiful. I actually love it there. Go if you can. It's amazing. Your American money will go very, very far, by the way. You will live like a king. But we took a train ride into the Carpathian Mountains, into Brasov, which is the ancient little village where all this happens. So we did about 2.5 hours from Bucharest train ride. So you feel like you're taking that journey into the Carpathian Mountains from the book and the movie. You get in, and I remember the night before in this little quaint little hotel we stayed in the Carpathians, and I remember going to sleep and I don't think I slept more than 2 hours that night, only because I'm thinking I was laying in bed just thinking I am in Transylvania right now, and I'm going to Dracula's castle tomorrow. Like, this is really happening. And I was so excited. And then we actually, believe it or not, took an Uber, Romanian Uber, to the Castle Bran Castle. It's in a town called Bran. It's a total tourist trap, I got to tell you. But it's awesome. The castle is beautiful. They totally play into the whole...
This is the castle of Vlad Tepes.
So they believe it's one of the places where he may have resided.
Okay.
There's also a place called Fortress Punari, which is a further out, where they think was one of his strongholds too.
Okay.
He's originally from a town called, I think it's called Sigishwara. I haven't seen everything. I want to go in a lot of... That's where he was born. There's a lot of places to go see Vlad Tepes. Quick recap, he's the real Dracula.
Yeah.
He's where the name came from. He was the Prince of Wallachia. He killed these people.
The inspiration for the character in the book.
He is a hero in Romania. Like, he is a real deal.
It.
Like, if you badmouth him, you will probably get crap from Romanian people. They truly, revere this guy. So keep that in mind. But yeah, Bran Castle is beautiful. It's amazing. It's a total tourist trap, but it's awesome. I've never seen more Romanian Dracula stuff on sale at this market down below the castle. You can't even imagine. But being there, for someone like me, and if you love this stuff, this is a once-in-a-lifetime journey. I will never forget this trip, and I would love to go back many times. Romania is beautiful, and it's real. The culture of the undead and the strigoi and the spirits, that stuff is real over there, and it still is a belief. Yeah. They still dig up dead people and bury and take their hearts out and burn them and drink the ashes. Like, this is still happening in small villages. So I still have a lot of places in Romania to visit, but if you can, like, outside our hotel in Bucharest, there was a statue of Dracula. Like, there is, it's everywhere. So yeah, if you can do it, go. I'm going to go back. Let me know when you're going. I'll join you. We'll have a wonderful trip. We'll take a vacation.
If you go, tell us. I mean, we want to know about it.
Please. Yeah, it really is incredible.
I want to see pictures. Matt hasn't shown me his pictures, so.
Oh, Matt sent you. I took like 300 of them, and I know I sent them to you.
Did you send me all of them?
Yeah, I sent you the folder of them, I think. Well, you know what? And if not, we'll send them to you again. So
send them to me. I thought you only sent me a few.
I thought I did, but they will be sent again. But yes, over there, like when you're there, you really feel it. It really becomes real. And you feel like you're in the movie and you're in the book, and it is just so awesome. So, yeah, that combined with but this movie is one of my favorites. I just think, and like you said, off the bat, it's Francis Ford Coppola. Anyone else in anyone else's hands, you're just going to get a subpar film. I think he really drives.
It could be schlocky without him and terrible. Without a lot of the actors in it.
It would end up being. I mean, no offense to the other movies, but it would just be another Dracula movie to me. I feel like.
Yeah.
So this is just
it's
so
very
great.
Very good. It's great, guys. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely a must watch.
Please watch. It's great. You will not.
All the thumbs up.
Yes, all of them. My 2 of them and my toes. All. Yes.
All of them.
Yes.
So, guys, we say it every time. We're going to say it again. Please subscribe to the podcast. It's free. You can subscribe for free.
Free.
Rate and review us on iTunes, wherever you're listening, so people can find us. It really does help. And don't forget to send us your movie suggestions, your thoughts on the movies we watched so far, anything you want to talk to us about. Email us at thescarymovieproject@gmail.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Scary Movie Project. We will see you next time. I never drink wine.
Don't forget, be kind, rewind.
The Scary Movie Project podcast is produced by Tara Garwood and Matt Lolich. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.